But first, yes, it's on, a 5-week race to save Australia. And I don't mean to save Australia from a bad Labor government, or to save Australia from declining living standards, or to save Australia from ever-increasing power bills. I mean to save Australia, quite literally. The country I was born in and grew up in was an Australia that was proud, self-confident, fiercely independent, and convinced it was the best place in the world to thrive and prosper and bring up your family. Our future was as bright and as sunny as our stunning landscape, our enthusiasm and optimism as broad and boundless as our sweeping plains, and our irreverence for pomposity, self-deprecation and pride in our larrikin selves was as powerful and as mesmerising as our sparkling ocean vistas. We were the envy of the world. But that Australia has gone, and it's not like we were not warned repeatedly. B.A. Santa Maria was the head of the DLP, a breakaway mob that split from the Labor Party. He knew what was at risk.
I think that Australia is one of the most beautiful countries in the world. I think that we don't understand how fortunate we are to be born here. We could have been born in Africa, we could have been born in Rwanda, we could have been born in Yugoslavia, and nobody really realises it or thinks about it. And I think that we've made a complete mess of the country, which was avoidable, and I think we probably will lose it.
Is it too late to save Australia? Have we lost it? Well, it's almost too late, but we can still save Australia. The happy, prosperous, egalitarian Australia we all grew up in can still return. In a more modern form, obviously, but only if we maintain our Judeo-Christian values of thrift, hard work, common sense, charity, sense of humour and camaraderie, and pride in our history. That is the bedrock of this nation. Mateship, a good laugh, and a fair suck of the salve. But this is it. This is the election in which we decide what that future Australia will look like. This is the election in which we determine the quality of life for our children and for their children. More importantly, this is the election in which we determine and map out and program what will be the standard of living that every Australian can look forward to over the next 20 or 30 years. This is no ordinary election. This is no Team A versus Team B election. This is no who makes what slip-ups during the campaign election. This is quite literally the most important election of our lives. The two most important numbers you should focus on from Labor's disgraceful budget this week are the easiest two to remember: 1 million and 1 trillion. Labor have let into this country over 1 million people in the last couple of years. We are a migrant nation, so measured and careful immigration is a part of who we are. Immigration that assimilates. But reckless, out-of-control immigration damages every aspect of our lives, driving up the cost of housing, pricing young people out of the market, distorting the jobs market, draining and straining our generous health and welfare services, increasing congestion, and in the worst cases, destroying social cohesion. The Coalition has promised to reduce immigration, not by enough, has to be said, but certainly preferable to the alternative. But the only real number any Australian needs to focus on if deciding who to vote for in 5 weeks is a number I never even conceived I would hear in my lifetime. Next year, thanks to the Albanese Labor government, gross debt will hit $1 trillion. Not 1 million, not 1 billion, but 1 trillion. As they say in the movies, be afraid, be very afraid. Under the Albanese government, money is being thrown onto a bonfire of useless woke ideology. We have nothing to show for this obscene amount of money, nothing at all. And the waste and stupidity and corruption will only get worse if Labor is re-elected, because Labor is wedded to the insane ideology of powering this nation with windmills and solar panels in order to save the planet. We have zero new investment of any meaningful kind coming into this country. The government's idea of green hydrogen, a superpower, renewable superpower, repeated again and again in the budget, is juvenile nonsense and pure fantasy. Everything Labor touches goes down the gurgler or blows out by billions of dollars. $1 trillion debt after 2 years of record iron ore prices. What will our debt be like after another term of these half-wits? 2 trillion, 3 trillion, pluck it out of thin air. When will the madness come to an end, and what sort of a crippled, impoverished, mendicant nation will we be? Albo Australia equals Povo Australia. The coalition is far from perfect. The flaw in their logic was on display in Peter Dutton's budget and reply speech, where he announced the plan to increase our natural gas supply via a reservation to bring down prices and to slash the fuel excise. All good measures. In other words, the only way to escape Labor's poverty trap is through reintroducing fossil fuels, which we have in abundance, into our economy. More gas, more wealth. More nuclear, more wealth. Slash red and green tape to get more fossil fuels out of the ground quicker, more wealth. So by definition, abandon net zero, pull out of Paris, and we can wipe out that $1 trillion debt. We need a Dutton government to declare an investment emergency, slash red and green tape, and encourage investment into this country. Follow the Donald Trump playbook. Put Australia first, Australia. Industry and manufacturing first, not green ideology and fantasies. But that battle lies ahead. First, we have to choose our next government. This is it, as they say. The games are over. We are at a fork in the road, and the decision this nation makes in 5 weeks' time will reverberate for decades. You have 5 weeks to sit your kids down, speak to your work colleagues, chat to the neighbours, get on the blower to far-flung family and friends, and convince them there can be no more mucking around. No voting for Labor, no voting for Teals, and no voting for Greens. If you're a newcomer to these shores, I'm glad you're here, but don't destroy the very thing you have come to. We have been warned. We must have a majority Conservative coalition government or face a very dire future indeed.